Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tennesha Wood. I had a super interesting interview the other day. There's this guy named Jason, and he's doing this project called 99 Years, and he basically interviews people for every year. So he interviews like a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. And I did the 34. And one of the things he asked about was what was my biggest fear. And I said that it was that I wouldn't be successful. Because, you know, that I just want to be successful. And he said that what he wanted to do eventually with the project was follow up with people, you know, a couple years from then and see what their answers were to the same questions. And he's like, you know, it's interesting because people's answers will change. Like your fears right now aren't necessarily going to be your fears next year. And I thought about that and I was like, so if something can change that quickly, then it's not necessarily that serious. So your fears aren't really that serious. They really don't need to be your fears. It's because it's a temporary thing. So you temporarily are fearing this thing, but while you're fearing it in the moment, it feels like, for the rest of my life, I fear that I won't be successful. And next year it might be like, I fear I put the wrong color socks on. I don't know. It's like fears aren't that serious. And I'm really trying to remember that and focus on that and remember that when I was 5, you know, maybe I feared the dark, but like, it's not that serious. It's just you're in a moment where you feel like it is, but it's not. So don't let your fears bring you down. I got Michelle with me here, AKA Brunchnista.
Hey, y'all.
You sounded really Southern just now. She's like, hey, y'all.
Well, I did go to school in Alabama and pick up some of their bad habits. So I do say y'all a lot.
Where'd you go to school?
Oakwood College in Huntsville, Alabama.
What made you go to Alabama?
My family's Seventh-day Adventist. And I am too. So that was a Seventh-day Adventist historically Black college. So
that is so specific.
Yeah, no, it's very, very specialized. And so, yeah, they were like, you know, I went to Seventh-day Adventist schools all my life. And so when it was time to go to college, you know, everyone from my high school was going there and we had like trips there. And so it was just like, okay, this is where you're going.
Wow. Yeah. What exactly do Seventh-day Adventists do?
Well, basically the premise of it is that you worship almost like the Jews. So you observe Sabbath from Friday night to Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And so that is like the seventh day. That is considered the seventh day. Friday, it starts Friday when the sun goes down to Saturday when the sun goes down. So that is like the major premise, which is why it's called Seventh-day Adventist. And then a lot of other things that other religions do, you know, Christ, the Godhead and, you know, Holy Spirit. And
Are Seventh-day Adventists the ones that like can't dance or something?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of cants. Okay. There's a lot of cants in the Adventist religion, but, you know, as we get more aware, I think a lot of that has fallen off. I remember when I was a little girl, like the California Adventists were the rebels because they would do everything. But now I feel like everyone's a California Adventist. Like everyone does whatever they want.
She's dancing over there.
She's dancing. She's wearing red lipstick. She's wearing eyelashes. Oh my goodness. She has on hoop earrings. Like none of us really
Are these
subscribe.
Really written rules somewhere?
No, they're not written rules. It's just like they feel like, well, we feel like you should be set apart and you shouldn't look like the world. So like whatever comes with that, like you should be a different person than everyday person that's in the world. So if that means like drinking and wearing earrings and wearing lipstick, it's like, how are you differentiating yourself from the world? As we get older, it's like, do you love the Lord? Yes, you know, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does that ever come up when you're dating?
Yes, it does.
How does it affect it?
You know what? That's such a good question because because I was raised Seventh-day Adventist, obviously, and a lot of it, I believe, is lifestyle. So again, like I said, it's like how you eat, how you dress, what you wear. So a lot of those things are kind of ingrained into my lifestyle without even really realizing it. And so, it'll come up because a lot of it is lifestyle things like, are you eating? How are you eating? How are you dressing? Like, what are your principles as far as education are concerned? Like, all of those little things that Adventists really place a heavy value on tend to come up all the time because, that's my life. So it does come up with dating, and I kind of use it as a barometer almost sometimes, like whether I would go forward with someone if they, if they're not exactly lining up to the things that I've been taught.
So do they have to be a Seventh-day Adventist?
As I get older, I'm like, do you just love the Lord? I'm like, do you love him? Do you, consider him a person in your life that, but when I was younger, you had to be Adventist.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I would have thought it would have been the other way around, where when you were younger, you would have said, well, whatever.
No, because I was in that environment all the time. So like I was in school and I was in church and I was around everyone who's Seventh-day Adventist. So of course that was very prominent in my life.
When was the last date you had?
Last month.
How was that?
Amazing.
Yeah? Okay. Tell us more.
So I'm a foodie, right? First of all, to even get me to realize that you're flirting with me, you have to say something about food, right? Like, I'm just going to act like you're the homie or whatever. But if you say these magic words, which is, I would like to take you to dinner or I'd like to take you to brunch. Now I'm like, oh, okay. Now, no, you're speaking my love language.
Say more.
Right. This guy was trying to talk to me the other day and he was like, oh, am I going to see you around? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, are you going to be here? I'm like, no. And he kept asking, I was like, he's like, oh, well, then maybe I could take you to lunch. I was like, oh, okay.
Where are you thinking?
Right. I was like, now I'm like, okay, he's trying to talk to me because he mentioned, I perked up when he said food. Mm-hmm. So I went on a date with this guy. It was actually in London.
Ooh.
Ooh. I know. He took me to a Michelin star restaurant.
Okay. So he knew what was up.
Listen, okay. It was 8 courses.
Is this the first date?
No, this is actually not our first date.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, 8 courses and wine pairings to go with each course.
What date was this?
Like 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm liking the way this guy moves.
Yeah. And he asked me, which is also another thing. He was like, do you want to get dressed up? I was like, of course I want to get dressed up. He was like, okay. So like he got the food part. I got the dress up part. So yeah, it was a really great date.
Where are you guys at now?
I mean,
it's been 4 dates.
Right.
Like, where's your mind at?
He's not here in New York. Mm-hmm. So he's like moving to Dublin. So...
Wait, are you not for it all the way because it's long distance?
Yeah, but just like, I don't like, how is that gonna...
You wouldn't move if you felt like this was the dude?
Dublin? Ireland?
You can make a life in a community anywhere.
So you say.
Now, keep in mind, I've never been to Dublin.
Right. Hi. No, I'm just like, okay, well, like I told him, I was like, let's, just hang and see what happens organically. Like, I don't want to have to be like, I'm going to fly here to see you. And like, I'm okay.
If he weren't moving, like if he were just staying in London, would you consider making it? You wouldn't do London? London's basically here.
No, it's 6 hours away.
I mean, like, it's a straight flight. Flights are generally cheap, and I mean, London is like has the same vibe as New York in my mind. Like, it does. It's not very different.
It's a really good vibe there. It's just like I may be a little bit of a commitment phobe, so like I'm like, let's just see what happens organically. Do
you want something long term?
It depends on what day you ask me. Like, of course, everybody, like, I want that, but I'm like, it doesn't make sense for my life. I don't really want to, like, have to answer to anybody because I'm a very free spirit. Like, I don't want to say free spirit because it sounds very cliche, but I'm a very solo mover person. Like, I have a lot of friends, but I don't necessarily move with people. Like, I like to go my own places, do my own things, just be me, and without having to really check in with anybody.
You know, one of the things that I've really been thinking a lot about lately, I had this lady come on my show the other day. She's in an open relationship, and she was talking about how different types of relationships can function in ways that we don't even think about. And it was based on, her ideas about it were based on this book that she read. It's about people quoting and talking about different types of relationships that they're in. So one lady is like, yeah, like, I bought the house next to my husband's, but we don't live together because I need my own space. Like,
that's that Tiny and T.I. life.
Is that what they do?
Yeah.
I honestly,
you don't
low key,
know, right.
I think that would work for me.
Yeah.
But I think like we have to sort of get out of the idea that there's one type of relationship and then there's one structure within it. So
no, I think I'm learning that. And like, I think what I've always battled with is like, well, all my friends have done it like this. Like, why am I the different? Like, even with my career and even what I choose to do in life, I was always looking at my friends like, well, they're, being able to sit in a 9-to-5 job at an office. Like, why am I so like agitated by this life? But like, as you grow and as you learn yourself more, you realize like you have to define what it is works for you.
Yep.
And so like, I think that's a really hard thing to do once you've had all of this like conditioning, to be like, this is how you should do this and this is how you should do this and it should look like this and it shouldn't be any different, until you get to an age where you're like, well, that doesn't really work for me. Mm-hmm. But then I need to kind of process that and kind of get out of the mindset of like, it doesn't work for me, but I'm still trying to fit myself into that, mold.
Right.
It's so hard because I do it every day. Trust me.
And that's what I feel like unhappiness comes from, is trying to fit into a mold that's like, it wasn't made for you. It was just like a ready-made, one size fits all, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
You ever get tights that are one size fits all and you were like, these don't fit me.
Listen,
what size were you talking
I'm
about?
all leg and that never works for me, right? No, but I was reading Becoming as well. And it's such a good book. Everyone should read it. But it's just like, she talks about like the things that happened to you in your childhood that turn you into the person that you actually become. Mm-hmm. And so like, that was so important for me. Like, I was, raised here in New York and, just a free, like, I was able to do and go and see and move very individually. Like, I didn't have to ask my mom for permission to do X and do Y.
Right.
And like, and like, we lived in Holland because my mom's from Aruba, and I went to school in the Netherlands, and like, we lived in Aruba. It's just like, it was just a very free kind of life. And I know my friends didn't have that. So like, why am I trying to be like them when I've had this totally different experience from everyone else? And it's just like, this made you who you are. Just accept it.
What would your ideal situation be, do you think, for a relationship?
I am still trying to figure that out, but it would have to be someone who let me move independently, but within a relationship. Like, I have a lot of anxiety around somebody like trying to put me in a mold, right? Like, I do love to cook. I love to do all those, quote unquote wife things. But, I may get up and like decide I want to go to Aruba for a week and you're not coming with me like I just did. And that should be okay.
And a lot of men, though, especially, I think would take that in an insulting way. But I'm the same way, girl. I like my alone time so much. My boyfriend now, he's the only guy I've ever lived with. And I'm learning so many lessons about myself.
Wow.
I didn't realize how much like I valued my space and my alone time because I've always just sort of had it and it was always there. And now sometimes I'm like, I feel like I haven't been alone for a week, which is so strange to me. And I remember when I was little, I would tell my mom, one day I'm going to get married and then me and my husband are going to live in the same building or the same house or in the same neighborhood, but like next to each other.
Right.
And I think that was just me always knowing that I needed a certain amount of space. And I'm also like OCD. No one can live with me. I'm just a hard person. I'm not even going to blame that on other people.
Right.
I just realized that I'm like,
own your
I'm hard to live with. I just need my house the exact way I want it all the time. Like, even if I had kids, I'd be like, so stay next door at your dad's house and I'll just come visit. Like, because I don't want y'all messing up my house.
Right. No, I get it. And of course, being single for, forever. Well, not single, but I've never lived with anyone. So I could not, I was talking to my girlfriend the other day. I was like, could you imagine having to sleep in the same bed with somebody every single night? Huh? I mean, of course it probably is great, but it's just when you have your adult life and you're living and you're alone and you're in your apartment and you're doing all these things that are just you focused. Could you, I feel anxiety around bringing somebody in that space and being okay, now you get to share it with me. It's wow.
It's a lot. Hi. The older you get, the harder it is.
I'm sure.
I always debate on whether it's better to meet somebody extremely young or older. Because when you're young, you can grow together. Yeah, you can grow together, you can mold together, you can develop your habits together.
Yes.
Whereas by the time you get to 28,
yes.
I really feel it starts to be
just 28. My God,
this is I feel that's when you won't change. That's when it becomes hard to change.
Right.
This is me. This is the person I am, and it's fully formed now. Right. So good luck.
Right. Good luck. No, it's it would be a challenge. It definitely would be a challenge. But hey, you never know until you try. So maybe we'll see.
When was your last relationship?
A long time ago. Yeah, long. I can't even remember. I've just been dating.
Something about you tells me that you sort of like the excitement of something new.
I told my friend that. I was like, I like newness.
Yeah, I think you
he was like, I get it. He was like, I see it. And I was like, I kind of like the newness of it. And then when it gets stale, I'm like, next. Yeah.
I'm that same way too.
But you overcome because you're in a full-fledged joint right now.
Well, this is really my longest relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, generally my boyfriend makes fun of me because he's like, your stuff be 7 months to a year, and then
hi, hello, hi,
and then you're out. So around month 7, he's like, I really got to keep an eye on you. I was like, you do.
I think it's me being idealistic as well too, because I am so hard on myself, and so when I love someone, I'm super hard on them, and it's just unrealistic.
Hard on them in what way?
Just I expect them to be on this high level of functioning all the time. You need to call me and you need to be doing this. It's just dumb. It's no, that's not realistic, Michelle. So it's almost you don't want to put someone on a pedestal because if they fall, you'll be crushed almost. Mm-hmm. And so I think I suffer from that a little bit. Come on, I really just have to adjust my expectations. But I'm also a perfectionist a little bit. So I'm doing everything at this high level. So I'm what, you're falling short of my high level. I'm up here and you're doing this. Okay, no, this is not going to work because I need you to be above me or at the same, else we cannot do this. And then I'm okay, well then, all right, next.
I guess we can't.
Right. And then I'm okay, next. And with stuff like Tinder and Bumble, it's there's always a next, There's always a next. So it's just swipe, swipe. Hey, swipe right. And then, here we go all over again.
But I think the key is, at least I've really been working on this, is sort of thinking about what can be changed and what can't be changed. And working on the level of, all right, I might not like the way he dresses, or I might not, like what he picks out to eat or things like that. It's that's an easy change, but who is this person at their core and at their heart? And can you work with those things?
I think it goes back to me being Adventist. It's a principle that I learned when I was young that I need to institute into my life is grace. Mm-hmm. And it's giving people the grace to mess up and be better, because that's what God does for us. I have to extend grace and mercy all the time and not just be so quick to be well, you didn't do it and and you're out of here. And, so a principle that I'm trying to do more of is extending the grace to people that I would want them to extend to myself. They're very mature. I'm not there yet. She's not there, but she's working. I'm not where I was yesterday, so we'll continue to work on that, because obviously being in a relationship with somebody does require amount of, mercy and grace and forgiveness and all of those things that come with it. So yeah, When I become a mature person, I will do those things. Right now, I'm not. No.
Right now, you're a runner like I used to be.
Right.
I don't need
this. Right. What? You didn't call me 3 times today. You weren't thinking about me 3 times today. You're done. I'm blocking you.
Have you ever let go of a relationship or somebody that in retrospect you were like, man, I was being too hard, or I wish I wouldn't have done it like that?
All the time. All the time.
Do you ever get back in touch and say, hey, my bad?
And it's always no, because I'm also stubborn. I'm a Capricorn. No. I'm a goat. No, I'm not going back. If I said I wasn't going back, I'm not going back. You ain't gonna know I wanted to come back. We just gonna pretend that nothing happened. But yeah, we need to work on that.
I feel like you owe a couple apologies.
No.
Like, no, it's not happening.
No. Yeah. There was this one guy I was thinking about the other day. I was like, he liked me so much and he was so nice. Why was I being such a fool?
So why were you? Did you figure it out?
I mean, I was younger, obviously. And, it's never the ones that like you the way, I don't know what that is. Like, I guess it goes in with a little bit of commitment issues. Like I'm always going for somebody who doesn't necessarily is good for me. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's something I think all women do at some point. It's like you chase the one that you shouldn't be chasing. And the one that's coming to you, you're like, I don't really like him that much. It's just
he's
like
a good friend.
Right. I don't know.
You know what I say? Like every show, the one thing my mom says, and she has always said it, she says, be with a man that loves you more than you love him. She has always said that.
I've heard that a million times. I just can't get it right, though. I haven't mastered that joint yet.
When I was in high school, there was this guy who really liked me, and his name was Andrew. I mean, like, Andrew liked me.
Right.
And he was the only guy that my mom would actually let come over the house. And he would always be like, "Oh, Mrs. Wood, can I help you with dinner? Or what are you making?"
He's a good one.
It was my little brother's birthday, and this is in high school, and he's bringing gifts for Christmas, and I was just like, "This is too much. It's I don't even like you. Like if I missed a class, it was like, here, I took you a full page of notes. Like I hated chemistry. He would literally be like, "Okay, I'll come over after school and go through it, and I'll really help you on this." Sweetest guy ever. And my mom loved her some Andrew. I'm like, do you want Andrew? Right. Like, what is this? And so this went on all of high school, some of college. I eventually went to the military. And even then, like, he was still like just very into me, very supportive.
Hello, Andrew. Hi.
But nothing ever happened between us, right? And then one day, this is when I was no longer living at home, my mom said, Andrew sent some letters in the mail and so I used to write for the newspaper in high school, and he had saved all the articles I'd written throughout high school. And she said, he sent this stuff. It was letters and the stuff he wrote in high school. And she said, you know what? He's done with you. He's moved on. That's why he sent this. Ooh. And in my mind, I was like, no, he didn't. Right. He's just like wanting to be like,
does he announce that he's getting married after that?
So that's to come. So then he sends these letters, and I was just like, whatever, like he'll be there. So then fast forward a year later, I had to go to Vegas for work, which is where he was living. And I was like, hey Andrew, like I'm going to be in Vegas. Can I stay with you for the weekend? And he was like, yeah, sure. He was like, okay, I'll set you up in the bedroom. I'll stay on the couch. Really sweet guy. And then he was just being so like standoffish. I was like, he's not acting like he likes me. Like, what's going on? And again, wasn't even that I was returning it, but I was just so used to it that I was like, why is he acting like that? And then he told me that he had a girlfriend and now they're married. And my mom legit was like,
I told you.
I told you. Right. And now Andrew won't even accept my friend request on Facebook.
Listen, after he sent you them paper clippings, he was like, me done.
He was done. He wanted none of it. Right. So Andrew, if you're listening, like, I hope, stuff is going well, and I hope you didn't take it to heart. Like, I was young. I think we're both doing great now, but
poor little Andrew.
Right. But my mama loved him.
Don't they always?
And that was the thing. She would say, like, you know, there's things that maybe you don't like about it, but you can change those things. She's like, you're strong. You just change them. You just change what you don't like. I'm like, I can't.
Right.
He's also a person.
Right.
So what would you say are the top 3 qualities that you need in a guy?
Flexibility is 1. 2, I guess, kindness, thoughtfulness, and communication. Communication is a huge one for me, and constant communication. Like, I think guys miss the mark on that, and I don't know why. I guess we're just over communicators.
I know why they miss the mark with you.
Because I'm running all the time.
Because that's a little bit of a contradiction. Because on one hand, you're like, I need my space. I need my freedom.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Don't be all up in my grill in my space.
You're right.
Let me be flexible.
Why you got to put me on the podcast and call me out? No.
So then if that's the impression that they're getting from you, that's like a cue to, well, let me not text you 5 times today. Let me text you once, see where you're at, and then I may or may not from there.
This happens often.
So I'm just saying, they're just, you know.
But I feel like you built, like, okay, so like we're talking about like social media and like technology and stuff. It's so easy to kind of like check in with someone or like say hi, or it doesn't have to be very overly like, oh, let's have a 3-hour conversation every day. But on a consistent basis, that lets me know that you're just not being flaky. You know what I mean? And it shows me a pattern of consistency, which is important, which not a lot of people do.
Right.
So if you're not going to be consistent, guess what? I'm not going to be consistent either. But like if you're showing me that over a period of time, you're like being consistent, then that's something that I would gravitate to. But most people don't make it.
Do you tell guys that up front?
No.
I think you should.
No, they're supposed to know instinctively that I want constant communication. What are you talking about?
Why aren't they Miss Cleo?
Right. Why are they not genies? Why do you not see this coming a mile away?
Because everybody is so different. You know, like the thing, like me personally, I don't like texting. I really despise it. I'd rather just be like, okay, so we're seeing each other Wednesday at 2? Okay, I'll see you then. Just text me to confirm the date and I'll see you then. But I don't but if the last girl that he, or the last woman rather, that he dated, you know, was like me and was just like, I don't like, that's the blueprint that he's going off of.
I think because my life is so transient and like I'm always doing something, going somewhere, being somewhere, like that little bit of communication every day for me is important. And like not just fluff communication either, you know, like, what are you doing? Oh, okay. You know, like, how are you? Like more like, what made you smile today?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, what'd you eat for lunch? Food question. Of course, you're always going to get me with the food question. You know, something that shows me you're being thoughtful and not just trying to check a box.
I think you should just say it up front. I think you should say the next time you meet somebody that you're out on a date with, or a couple dates, or you feel like it's going somewhere, like, you know, enough time that you can openly you can openly express at any point. But I think it's perfectly okay to say, yeah, you know, one of the things that's really important to me is quality communication. And I like it. I like being texted in the middle of the day. If you want to send me a picture of your lunch, I'll send mine back and we could talk about that or whatever. That's an important aspect of a relationship to me. And, you know, take that advice with however you want to take it. But I think that men often, we really do expect them to just sort of, you should just know.
I really feeling
it's not really,
why come you don't know this already?
Right. And it's not really fair, especially when at this point in life, when we've been on so many dates and dealt with so many people and people are so different. Like we were saying, like there's no one man and there's no one woman and there's no one structure of a relationship.
Right.
So
if I
it's
could
like
take a whole bunch of them and put them together.
So I really think like it's important to like say that stuff up front.
No, I think you're right. I think it is important. But again, like getting out of that, you know, you're supposed to know, I shouldn't have to tell you this, like, you know, reprogramming. And so I think that takes time and also a certain level of consciousness that you're going to say to yourself, okay, if direct communication is what I want, then that's what I'm going to have to ask for.
Yep.
So I agree. I just still think that.
Oh, trust me. Like I said, I am just now really understanding some of these things, and I certainly didn't understand them when I was dating. It really took being in this relationship to completely get it.
Right.
Because even after 2 years now, I'm like, how don't you get that? And he's like, you never said that. You know? And I'm like, but you know me. You know that I'm like this.
Right.
No.
I'm like, you don't pick up on context clues? That's not your thing?
A person might know you, but they still can't make every assumption.
Yeah. And like I said, grace, because I function, and I just function at this level of like introspection, and I'm always like, okay, well, if that meant that, then that means that, like I'm always looking and analyzing and observing and watching, and I'm just that person by nature. And so I feel, which is dumb, that other people do the same thing, and it's not so.
Especially men.
Oh my gosh. I think that's part of it, where I'm like, where's the guy that's going to match my curiosity? Where's the guy who's going to match my introspection? Like, where he's like, oh, Michelle, I see that you da-da-da. So, would you like to do this? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a fairy tale, or maybe I feel like, it's never gonna, or maybe I'm just making it up just so I don't have something to commit to. But whatever it is,
But I really think we tend to want the same qualities that we have, right?
Yes.
But
that's dumb.
Those aren't necessarily needed.
No.
It'd be like if we were working together and we're both like, okay, let's both work on the computer.
Right.
Well, who's going to man the phone?
Right.
Well, I'm not a phone person. You know what I'm saying?
100%,
Like, we need, if we're really working on a team, we need people to bring
so
different things to the conversation, or to the relationship.
Light bulb moment.
Yeah.
That's so right. You're so right. You're right. We do not need two observant, over analytical, introspective, deep thinkers, over analyzers. Like, that would be hell.
Yes.
That would
Could
be
you imagine?
hell.
Like what my boyfriend always says. He says, you take your first false premise, and what you do is then you make other assumptions based on that premise.
You or me.
And then everything that you've thought now is incorrect because you started with a false premise. And instead of asking me...
We better check you.
Right. Instead of asking me if that premise was correct, you didn't. You made an assumption. And now everything that you're thinking is false.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I really do say to myself now, like, okay, I'm assuming this. Is this premise correct? And now I will just ask. I'll be like, hey, here's what I thought.
If they lie?
If that were an issue, we'd have to get into a whole nother thing. Like, the simplest thing happened the other night, and I really just, it brought us into a rabbit hole. But we have a popcorn maker, and I really love this thing. And he makes it way better than I do when he makes the popcorn. And so I said, hey, could you make me, he was really busy with work like all day. And I said, hey, could you make me some popcorn later? And he's like, all right. So it comes to a certain point in the night, and I'm sitting on the couch. And I'm like, hey, can you make that popcorn? He's like, yeah, I'm just going to do a phone call real quick. And I was like, no, could you make the popcorn first? And he was sort of like, okay. And I was like,
not with that attitude.
Why are you? I was like, forget it. Like, right. I'll make it.
Right.
And he was like, no, I said I would make it. I'm going to make it. I was like, but you had an attitude about it when you were, and he was like, it really wasn't an attitude, Tennesha. I had other stuff on my mind. Like, it had nothing to do with you. I said I was going to make the popcorn. I was about to make the popcorn. Like, what's the big deal? And again, in that moment though, when he did a grunt, I made about 30 assumptions when he had other stuff going on, which is why he wanted to make a call. And like, it wasn't about me. But in that moment, I was like, he just doesn't want to make this popcorn for me because he doesn't want to do stuff for me. And this whole rabbit hole, this whole thing, instead of just saying, hey, why did you just grunt like that? And he would have been like, ugh, this is BS I'm dealing with at work right now. But I made it about something else. And then I legit was like, I mean, if you don't want to make the popcorn, I will make my own popcorn. It is not, whatever. Like,
oh my goodness. You or me.
Over popcorn.
Oh. Seems
And
rational to me.
You were like, yeah, girl, why did he act like that?
That grunt gets you every time. Why? That's why we're here. You know, like, come on. Like, seriously. Sometimes I step out of myself. I'm like, you're being ridiculous. You're being ridiculous. Can you flag on the play? Flag on the play.
And even if it was correct, like even if worst case scenario, he made that grunt because he didn't want to make popcorn.
He was still going to make it anyway.
He was still going to make it. But like, is that a big deal? Like, why did I cause that in that moment? I made it way more than it needed to be. Because at the end of the day, was it a big deal if he didn't make me popcorn in that moment? Did that like say anything about our relationship and how he treats me and who we are as people? No. But in that moment, I got into my mind and I was like, you're not going to act like this. No, not with me,
what
boo.
We're not going to do is grunt when you making me popcorn. Like, yeah, I
make
know,
it with a smile.
right.
If you're going to make it with a smile, okay?
Right.
When I fix you something, I do it with a smile.
Smile, bitch. Right.
So it's a process. It's a definite process.
It's you have to. I think the biggest challenge in relationships is like deprogramming yourself from all the things you thought were correct to what is really realistic. And see how I'm saying this all like, I know, and I still go out there and do crazy things. I mean, but it's still a process. And I think it's a work in process. And I think that's why relationships are so hard. It's because you have to kind of like find your groove and then unlearn things and then relearn things and extend grace and be merciful and forgive. And I mean, just, it's like, it's a ladder that you're continually climbing and you'll never get to the top, because once you get to the next thing, it's something else you got to work on. And so
it is literally decoding. You know how I just thought about it when you were saying it? I was thinking of like a computer programmer. And with each date you go on, right? With each person you interact with, you enter a code, right? A 0 or 1. You enter that code. And then the next person, you enter another code. But now that first code is irrelevant because the next person is now here. And you have to remember to delete that code or update that code. And you have to do this every single time to like deprogram and learn something new and interact with new people. And it's complicated. But you can't bring all the old code into the new program. Shout out to my software engineers.
No, it's so true. I was reading this book. It's called Fatherless Daughters. It's like a fatherless daughters project. It just talks about women who've lost their dads at different points in their life, whether it be through death or whether it be through just anything, like they left or, you know, they were in and out. And it talks about how that kind of shapes your view on what men would be like and how you have to like deprogram that and like move forward from that. So like beyond that coding that you have to delete, you have to go behind the computer and figure out all the things that happened the
hardware
there,
of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to be like, okay, well, you know, she didn't, you know, like it's a lot. And sometimes it may feel overwhelming and, you may feel like, man, is it really worth it? Like, should I even bother? But I think, I've had tons of friends who are married and they've been married for a very long time and they're happy. Not to say that they don't have obstacles and challenges that they face, but like the idea of them being partners together and, this thing called life is just, it's a great thing to watch. And I'm so happy for them, and maybe one day I'll get to that myself. I'm not definitely putting myself in any, on any timeline or pressure to feel like I have to have that. But it's great watching them and watching them grow their families and raise their families and work, through things together and, hit each milestones at different, it's great. I love it. And I celebrate all their moments.
So what is next for you? Dating wise, with Brunchnista, all of it.
I'm just challenging myself to, like I said earlier, to be different, like to not fit myself in any particular mold. Like, oh my gosh, you have to do this, you have to do that. But just success on my terms, which means me really being happy and me really being free. Like, and for free, that means that I can take off from work and go to whatever I want to do, or I can, start a brunch blog, or I can just do whatever my heart contents and not have any parameters set around that, really. So, just continuing with Brunchnista. It's one of my passions, food. I love brunch. I love fellowship. I love friendship. So, like, being able to bring all those things together is really important for me. So, kind of expanding that platform.
What exactly is Brunchnista?
So, Brunchnista, basically, because I love brunch, and I've always loved brunch. So, back in the day, I would go to brunch like maybe 3 or 4 times a day with, different friend groups. Like if my friend woke up at 9 and she said she was ready, I'd be there. If my friend was like, okay, I'm waking up at 12, come scoop me, I'd go with her. And then the other friend would be like, okay, I'm ready around 4, I'd go with her. But it was just more about connecting with my friends that I hadn't seen during the week. And it was something that I like to do over food, conversation, laugh, joke, kiki. Hey, girl, blah, 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 blah. What you been doing all week? And so it'd be 8 o'clock and I just finished brunching. And
what'd you do? I just got back from brunch. It's 10 p.m.
Literally, that would be me. And my friend said to me one day, she was like, it's 8 o'clock. You just got home from brunch? I said, yes, girl, I've been brunching all day. She was like, you're a Brunchnista. I was like, Brunchnista. I like it, And so it just became this thing where, I was literally brunching all the time and, trying to find different ways to connect with. And then brunch became a thing, right? Mm-hmm. So like now it's Brunch Women Conference and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like me, I'm still about the one-on-one with my girlfriend, a nice meal, someplace we've gone to, to try new in the city because we live in the city of restaurants.
Right.
And so it's always a good time to sit across from your friend, look her in the eye and say, hey, girl, how are you? Not just a text message or liking a social media picture. So for me, it's more connection and friendship, but of course, over food, which we all love. Like, who doesn't love a good meal? And so I want to bring that back, kind of. Like, I don't want you swag surfing next to my eggs. Like, how about me and my girls on at a table looking at each other? Girl, how have you been? What did you do this week? What irritated you? Like, what you working on? And I usually do one-on-ones, which I'm really good at. Like, I don't like the big brunches.
Yeah.
So the more intimate, the better for me. But also, I grew up here in New York, and my mother used to always have people over for brunch or lunch or dinner. We always had people at our house. We used our good china. I know people in New York. I've never been to their house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I guess it's because we are in a different culture and mindset now. Like, my mom probably had kids at my age or whatever, and your family was more of a family. Now it's more of us, just maybe you and your boyfriend or you and your husband or me by myself. So we don't do that anymore.
Right.
I don't know. When's the last time somebody invited you over for dinner?
Actually, funny enough, last weekend, my girl Chiquita invited me over for brunch, and she made like a really amazing brunch spread, and it was great. Like, yeah. I'm a homebody,
right?
So we like having people over. Now, if you come to our house, we're gonna make the same meal. No. It's gonna be salmon with a rice and a vegetable side, but we make it so good.
It's okay though.
But I love that,
right? And so like my friends, we used to call it College Row because they all lived in the area. My friend Demetria, Nicole, Shani, and Isis were my friends. They've all since like moved out of the area or whatever, but they all lived like within a block parameter of each other. And so they called it College Row because it was like, y'all, but I was like, I live in the annex because I live way out in Brooklyn, but I would always come over there and I would go over to my friend Isis' house, and I'd literally bring a suitcase with like pancake mix and strawberries and oranges and orange juice, and I'd be like, I'm making brunch, so everybody come over, and we just sit there for hours talking, kicking it. We just don't do that anymore. I want us to get back to that. Put a little fancy on it, but again, with social media and stuff, we're just so used to connecting electronically. We've kind of lost that I'm gonna come over, and like even with this podcast, I was like, what? She wants to meet in person? I was like, I thought this was going to be a Skype thing. But I mean, it's so good, like feeling your energy and being and sitting across from you. Like, we just need more of that. And I don't want us to lose that. Social media is a great thing. I love it. Trust me, I'm on it all the time. But I feel like, can we like balance it out with a little bit more in the FaceTime? So that's basically the premise of Brunchnista.
And it also fools you, social media fools you into thinking that you are actually catching up with people because you're like, oh girl, I saw that you just got that new job, or I saw that you had the baby, and you feel like they told you, but like it's different. They told the world, but they didn't tell you.
Yep. And also, like, you miss certain things on social media, obviously, because it's only highlights, right? Like, I'm your friend. I don't only want to know highlights. I want to know lowlights, too. Like, I want to know the things that upset you. I want to know, is he pissing you off? Like, do we got to go over there and egg his car? Like, I'm that friend. I'm all in. I'm like, what, girl? What? Like, what we doing? Like, what? Do I need to get my hoodie? Because, Brooklyn represent. No, but I'm that friend. And so, like, it really pains me that we don't do that anymore. And I want to feel connected to my friends. So I use Brunchnista to do that. And even on my social media, it's not like I'm posting things that I'm interested in, but I'm more trying to connect with people.
Right.
Like, I'm just not trying to sell you something. I want you to feel like you're part of a community and we're doing this together, right? So it's connection for me. It's really, really big. And I think I don't want to lose that, so I'm going to focus on that.
I love it. We need to do a brunch now.
Of course,
I really
no, but
feel
that's
like a brunch.
So that's the thing, okay? The Brunchnista don't even brunch no more because I don't have time anymore. I'm like everybody, and I like the intimacy of one-on-one or maybe two-on-one. So it's like, how do I find time to do that with everybody? I can't. But you can go to my social media. I have Brunchnista, and you can connect with me there.
What's your Instagram?
At Brunchnista. Twitter at Brunchnista, Facebook at Brunchnista.
Okay, so reach her at Brunchnista. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course, I loved it. It's so good. Like, I get to talk about something other than brunch.
See, my favorite topic is dating and relationships, so I could talk about that all day.
Yeah, so we could do that over brunch one day.
Yes, that would be perfect. Well, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor.
Thank you. And thank you, my lovely listeners. And please reach out to me. Let me know what you think of the show at Tennesha Wood on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.